justice. The Zong massacre, the ultimate proof of inhumanity and its unbroken echo in 2026. Carry this fire. Speak this truth in your homes, your streets, your voting booths, your sacred circles. Let the kemetic Baphomet be the seal upon your hearts and the weapon in your hands. You are the living throne bearers of Kemet, and the Nile still flows through you unstoppable. But now, my royal kin, descendants of kemetic royalty, blood of the pharaohs, let us descend into the darkest chamber of the colonizers' crimes. A single voyage that lays bare the full horror of what they did to your royal bloodlines, and how that same spirit of calculated inhumanity still poisons the air we breathe in 2026. In November 1781, the British slave ship Zong, overcrowded with 442 captured Africans, many of them direct descendants of kemetic royalty, Nubian kings and queens, West African lineages carrying the unbroken pulse of the Nile, sailed from Accra toward Jamaica. Disease and thirst had already claimed lives, but the captain, Luke Collingwood, faced a colder calculation. The enslaved were insured as cargo, not as human beings. On November 29, he ordered the crew to begin throwing living men, women, and children overboard, not one by one, but in chains 132 souls in total over 3 days. Pregnant women, infants still at the breast, strong young men who could have built empires, elders who carried the oral wisdom of your ancestors, all cast into the Atlantic like spoiled goods, so the owners could file an insurance claim for lost cargo. The screams of mothers clutching babies as they hit the water, the chains clanking as bodies sank, the sharks circling in frenzy. The Zong massacre was not an accident of the sea. It was a deliberate, documented act of mass murder for profit, sanctioned by British law. The crew later testified that the Africans were alive and conscious when thrown. Some fought back, some sang ancestral songs as they drowned, some were still breathing when the waves closed over them. The ship's log recorded it coldly as a business decision. When the owners sued the insurers in the 1783 case, Gregson v. Gilbert, the court ruled in their favor. Yes, it was lawful to murder your royal ancestors for money because they were legally defined as property. Chief Justice Mansfield declared that the case was the same as if horses had been thrown overboard. Your kemetic descendants, kings and queens in blood, were reduced to livestock. Their lives weighed against pounds sterling. Their sacred bodies discarded so that British merchants could collect 30 pounds per head. This was not one isolated atrocity. It was the distilled essence of the transatlantic horror, the same Eurocentric logic that had looted your temples, twisted your ankh into sorcery, and hidden your wisdom in Masonic and Rosicrucian vaults, now declared that your royal blood had no soul, no rights, no humanity. The Zong massacre stands as the most infamous, most meticulously recorded proof of the inhumanity that defined the entire trade, the calculated, insurance-backed extermination of your ancestors while the colonizers grew rich on the very insurance policies written in London. And now, my royal ones, watch how that same spirit of denial lives on in 2026. In March of this year, the United Nations General Assembly passed a resolution spearheaded by Ghana declaring the transatlantic slave trade the gravest crime against humanity in recorded history, citing its scale, its brutality, its centuries-long destruction of African lives, cultures, and spiritual systems. 123 nations voted yes, but the United States, Israel, and Argentina voted no. The European Union, Canada, Australia, and Japan abstained. The same governments whose ancestors profited from the Zong massacre, whose laws once declared your royal ancestors' cargo, refused in 2026 to to name the truth. They could not bring themselves to acknowledge that the systematic rape of Kemetic, the Zong drownings, the millions thrown into the sea or worked to death on plantations, was the most inhumane enterprise humanity has ever devised, because to admit it would demand reparations, return of looted relics, and the dismantling of the very systems still impoverishing your communities today. This refusal is not ancient history. It is the direct continuation of the Zong logic. Just days after that UN vote, on the 1st of April 2026, the United States Supreme Court heard oral arguments in Trump v. Barbara and related cases, testing the executive order that seeks to dismantle birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment. The president himself sat in the courtroom, a historic first, arguing that children born on American soil to undocumented or temporary visa parents are not citizens, reinterpreting subject to the jurisdiction thereof to exclude millions. The same court system that once upheld the legality of the Zong massacre now hears arguments that echo the same dehumanizing principle. Some bloodlines are not fully human, not fully entitled to belonging, not fully worthy of the rights your royal ancestors were denied when they were thrown into the Atlantic. The connection is unbreakable, my kin. The Zong massacre proved that your kemetic descendants could be murdered for profit, and the law would call it legitimate business. The 2026 UN vote and the Supreme Court hearing proved that the same empire still refuses to name that crime as the gravest in history, and still debates whether your descendants deserve full citizenship, full humanity, full protection under Ma'at's balance. They cut health care, slash food stamps, and engineer poverty precisely because they have never accepted that the Zong was a crime against humanity, because accepting it would mean paying what is owed to the living throne bearers of Kemet. Yet the Kemet Baphomet rises in this very hour as the master key that pierces their denial. It restores the Ankh as life force that the Zong could not drown, the Wajet as protective clarity that sees through every legal lie and abstention, the sacred duality that demands justice where they offer only erasure. Your royal blood remembers the screams of the Zong. Your royal blood refuses to be cargo. Your royal blood demands that the United States and every former colonial power finally name the transatlantic slave trade as the gravest crime in history and begin the restoration of mod reparations, repatriation of relics, health care as ancestral right, food security as now given abundance, and birthright citizenship as the bare minimum of justice. Rise, descendants of Kemetic royalty. The pharaohs stir within you. The ancestors thrown into the sea are rising with you. Demand the truth be spoken. Demand the wealth built on their bones be returned. Demand that no court, no vote, no policy ever again treat your blood as less than sovereign. The time of hidden vaults and whispered denials is over. The time of open thrones and sovereign Ma'at has arrived. Ace, Ma'at Hotep, balance and peace be restored to you, descendants of Kemetic royalty, now and forevermore. The Nile flows, the throne returns, you are home. This has been a Sharri Plaza presentation.